All right. Sweet.
Woo.
We got ourselves a podcast. So this is Zach from RPGsite.net. This is the very first edition of the Anime Review. This is a podcast that I've been wanting to do for years. I'm excited to have a couple of my coworkers here to participate. I've got Nusha
Hello.
and Deanna.
Yo.
Yo. So yeah, both you guys, of course, we've been working with each other for a number of months now, but this is something that us as a site we've been trying to do for a while because at some point I actually had started a separate site for anime reviews. That was like a sister site to RPG site, but that didn't go so well because go figure, writing about anime is kind of hard. It's mostly just repeating the same stuff over and over and just kind of figuring out deeper meaning. It's a lot easier to do for games, I realized, than anime when it's like 20 minutes. So yeah, we didn't do anything with that at that point. But now we're back actually doing an anime review podcast. It's a lot easier to talk about the stuff we care about instead. So to kind of set things up, to let you guys get to know us a little bit better, I kind of wanted to go over your history of anime. Like, what was your first real experience with the medium, and the kind of stuff that you're into. And so, Nusha, let's start with you. What's kind of your history with anime?
Uh, I kind of started out like a lot of people did, like, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, that kind of stuff. Um, I remember a show that really hooked me at the time was Yu Yu Hakusho on Toonami, or not Toonami, Adult Swim, I think it was at the time.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know. I think I caught it right in the middle of the first tournament arc, which like that show was notorious for having like 1,000 tournament arcs, and so I like immediately fell in love with that. And in middle school, my friend at the time I was collecting a bunch of like those big fat like Shonen Jump uh, manga with like 6 or 7 different stories in it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I love those things. And one of my friends told me about YouTube, and I had no idea what it was. And he's like, "Yeah, you can watch every episode of Naruto subbed on there." And I was like, "What?" And I did that, and from there, I just started picking up more and more shows, and now I'm the big ol' weeb you see before you today.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of the history that I've had with it too. But before I get into my side, Deanna, what's your history with anime?
Mine is similar to Nusha's, except I started out with Sailor Moon. So I would
Yes.
watch on Toonami. I think it was on Toonami. But I also watched Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, really good show. But not sure a 5-year-old is supposed to watch that.
No, probably
But
not.
anyways, yeah, and I grew up with a bunch of uncles who love Dragon Ball Z too. So yeah, and then eventually in middle school, started getting into Naruto, and just like Nusha, discovered YouTube and all those videos. So yeah.
Awesome. That's actually what I was saying is that so I'm a little bit older than either of you by a few years. But
Zach is 52.
yes, I'm grandpa. Actually, if I'm 30, but in anime, I'm a decrepit old man that has a bad hip.
You
Uh,
wouldn't be the main character of any show.
yeah, pretty much. I'm like the old wise man hiding in the woods at this point. But the thing is that my history of anime began a lot earlier because I had a brother who was super into anime as well. He was also into Sailor Moon. I think he actually named his son Darian. Go figure, because he was so into it. But he had a bunch of VHS tapes of old shows, and so I got to see like Tenchimuyo, Project Eiko was another one of those. Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z. My earliest memories was like waking up on a Sunday morning, coming down, seeing Dragon Ball Z and Monkey Magic and Monster Rancher, all those old shows, and then yeah, Adult Swim. Like it was really good to be an anime fan in the early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s, because you were able to come home. Like I would run home from elementary school, for example, with like and get a big bowl of popcorn and watch like Robotech and Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z. Like those blocks were so damn good at the time. And yet, Yu Yu Hakusho, Ronin Warriors, that kind of stuff. It was such a great time to be a fan, and that, of course, cultivated the passion that I share, and it sounds like you guys have as well, which is what brings us together to do this podcast of ours. And so, with that, now that you guys have gotten to know us a little bit better, we can continue by doing something first, which is recapping the season. So yeah, obviously some of the shows that we're going to talk about have not finished just yet. A little bit surprised about that. You guys like that transition, by the way? I don't know if you saw that, but it was.
I love it.
It's really stupid.
There's a PowerPoint.
A little burst, yeah. Let me just punch that up here. But yeah, it's some of the shows that we thought were going to be over are not over yet. Megalobox, but it's something that's. I guess the next episode is the final one, though, so I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's something that we wanted to kind of focus on for this episode, is that we're going to be recapping the season so far. Most of the shows are already over with or will be very soon. I'm sure we'll talk more about that next week for some of the shows that are just kind of wrapping up right now. We'll also move into what's going to be coming up next season, because some of those new shows are going to be starting later this week, some like in a day or two, in fact. So we wanted to kind of jump on that. We'll also get into a big segment that we're going to be doing for a long time, a show that we've been wanting to watch for a long time. We're going to get into that. We'll also be talking about Anime Expo. Obviously, we're just a little over a week until that actually begins, but we figured it'd be a good way to start the podcast by our actual, like, the podcast itself, by talking about the show, the panels that we want to go to, and so figured that would be a good way to kick things off. But first, before we get into that, let's look at the shows that we've been watching this season. Now, I don't know if I wanted to really reveal these one by one or just go ahead and just put them all up there, but I'm gonna go ahead and just show everybody. This would have been fancy if I did this before, but I'm just gonna show everything right off the bat. So we're gonna just do this. I'm going to show everybody the shows that we're watching to kind of put things in perspective about the number of shows that Deanna has been watching.
Oh, my goodness.
Deanna.
Compared to us. You've got about twice as many shows as we do.
I'm basic, damn.
You'll find out later, though, that it's become a little more balanced because we wanted to, have more stuff to talk about going forward. So, yeah. We'll start with, I think we might hold off a little bit on Deanna just for a second here. Since we started with the new show last time, let's start with again. Let's talk, all three of us. I don't know if we want to start with a showstopper, though. Let's do it,
right.
though. Let's start with Megalobox. Holy crap, this show.
God, I love this show so much. Everything from, like, the way it's stylized, to the music, to the character designs, like, everything is specifically curated to give off like a certain feel, and it does a really good job of giving off that feel. And I feel like if I had to fault it on one thing, the only thing I possibly could, if I had to like grasp at straws here, was maybe just like the format of the fights themselves. I kind of feel like most of them just kind of boil down to Joe getting the shit knocked out of him until he hits a counter at the very end, and then everyone blows up. But like a lot of shows like Megalobox, I feel like most of what you're supposed to be paying attention to is what's happening between the fights, because that's when these characters really develop and become their own, especially like characters like Coach Nambu.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that about the that is struggling the whole fight. That's Hajime no Ippo pretty much for a lot of different fights that he's in.
I love Hajime no Ippo, so this was a natural transition to me.
Of course, yeah. I'm totally that right there with you. Is that the soundtrack is insane? Like the most recent episode 12 that they just showed, that last song that plays was so great, and the lyrics was so on point that I really enjoyed
the
it.
rap?
Yes, the rap.
Yeah.
When Saicho is not the one rapping, sometimes you gotta adjust for that. But it was a great show. Deanna, what were your thoughts on the season? Obviously, you had to play a little bit of catch up, but you waited till basically when the stuff is getting at its peak.
Yeah, in my case, I probably watched 6 episodes in until I decided to just hold off on it to binge it. And when I did, it was amazing. It was like the music, the animation. I also felt like there was a good balance between the action and drama, getting to know the characters, but also watching the really cool boxing matches. But yeah. Did you guys think the action and drama, they were balanced, or like the pacing?
I would say it's definitely at another level than the shows that I'm used to. There's a lot more it's a lot more realistic, or at least it's more like down to earth than a lot of those types of shows tend to be. Because for some reason, I don't know, with like Hajime no Ippo, it seems like there's some supernatural stuff going on sometimes with the way they act. Even if a lot of it can be boiled down to, you know, you were talking before about how there was like that one boxer that everyone thought had like really long reach, but it turns out he just loosened the bandages around his glove so that
Yeah.
it looked like it was happening that way. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that, and this show feels way more you know, here and now, which I appreciated, and something that is very plausible. The idea, though, that there would be like this huge sporting event like boxing that would become mainstream and everyone would be super obsessed over it, I'm not totally sold on that. Just because, you know, unless it was like killing games, I don't know if that would happen, just because boxing, as far as a sport now, isn't so popular. But you know, this is obviously a different world, so they clearly enjoyed their arena events. I do appreciate the fact that it's kind of like the Roman Coliseum style to it, where everyone has to like, everyone gathers around talking about everything. Like they're getting a Gearless Joe tattoos and everything because they're super into his style, and then they all kind of gather together in this giant arena to watch a fight. That's kind of exciting in its own.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm absolutely in love with like every interaction that guy has with Yuri. I don't know about you guys. I love
Oh,
that
yeah.
rivalry between them. Every scene where they're just kind of like staring each other down from the boxing ring like gives me chills, and I love it. And like this whole like talk about like what it means to be like the genuine article, the real deal. And then are we okay with spoiling stuff? Like I don't know. Are we
Honestly, yeah. I mean, that's okay. I would say,
Okay,
because
okay.
that's where we recap on the season, so it's important for us to talk about that. So just kind of heads up for people ahead that we are going to talk about spoilers here.
Yeah. Okay, so when Joe dies, no,
Damn, I didn't even see that.
when Yuri like decides to remove his gear to fight Joe, like I immediately fell in love with that character even more, because like his whole journey was to realize like what it means to be like a genuine boxer, like a real deal like Joe, and then for him to finally like drop that gear that has been like his selling point up until this episode. Like I'm really excited to see how that last fight carries out. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, I would say that it definitely added dimension to his character, because up to that point he was very one-dimensional. He's kind of cardboard, almost in a way. He wasn't emotional. But
Yeah.
it's mostly because it looked like that he didn't really have a reason to live, that, you know, the way he wanted to. It was more about trying to help his owner, in a sense, trying to help her, you know, get that contract that she really wanted. But now that he has Joe to fight, you know, he's feeling these emotions and showing them a lot more than he used to, especially clearly from like, he's really happy with where he's at, and it's clear that no matter what, you know, she has to say about this, he's going to be doing what he wants to do.
Exactly.
Is that what you kind of
Yeah.
got, Deanna?
Yeah. I don't know if you could characterize him as the antagonist of the
Yeah.
show.
No, I wouldn't.
But
I wouldn't
yeah.
think so either. He's definitely got. It's almost like he's not really like empathizing with Joe. It's just more that, you know, he's in it just as much as he is. You know, he's in it for the fight, and it's exciting to see like the growth of his character done so in such a great way. You know, and I don't think there's really, and like, other than that mafia boss guy, the Yakuza guy, there's no real
That's what I
evil
was gonna say.
people. But even the Yakuza guy was more like, you know, all right, I can see that you're really passionate about Joe, and so I'm gonna let you go. It was this really bizarre like turn that I wasn't expecting because
Yeah.
of what
It only
happened.
comes
But,
to an
you
eye,
know,
but
that's the kind of the big pull away from that. But aside from Megalobox, Nusha, you also watched, I think we all did as well, Hinamatsuri.
oh yeah. This was kind of surprising to me because I'm usually not a big comedy anime fan.
What? Come on.
Yeah,
Those are some of
I
the
know,
best shows.
blasphemy. But Deanna actually showed me like a single clip from the show, and it was the my smartphone guy.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Immediately, I like put it
Oh,
on
that was the first
notepad,
episode, like the
watching
first
Amatsuri.
2 minutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was the first 2 minutes, and I was immediately hooked. And like, what really sold me on this show as I continued to watch it was that there was continuity to it. Like a lot of the times, comedy shows, and I think this is what takes me away from them, is that they they kind of reset after each episode, you know, like very Tom and Jerry-esque, where like they go through all this stuff, but then you know that next week they're just going to be Tom and Jerry again, same old Tom and Jerry. But like with Hinamatsuri, like every character undergoes growth, and then they become a different character and they can explore different ways of being funny. Like Anzu, which everyone I think can agree is the best girl of the season.
Yes. Absolutely.
She starts off as like this bratty, annoying kid, and then that's funny in its own way, but then she becomes homeless and learns the value of money and starts empathizing with people, and then it opens up new ways for her to be funny, like with her at the racetrack with Sabu. So I don't know if you guys caught that or appreciated that kind of continuity. And as someone who hasn't seen a lot of comedy anime, is that rare for comedy anime? Do you guys notice?
Well, as someone who watches Gintama, which is probably known to be like a comedic anime, there are a lot of tender moments, which I think that's why I enjoyed Hinamatsuri so much, because it reminded me of Gintama. But it's just, you know, it's hilarious, but then it kind of brings you back to this reality where like, oh, these character relationships, they're so wholesome, and you can probably relate to them in some way or another. So that's what I really loved about this show.
Yeah, and I think we all agreed that Anzu took this 180 turn that we all completely fell in love with her, because she was the character that you thought that was going to be more of a pain than Hina was, but then, you know, she becomes this really adorable, endearing person because she learns the value of money, as Nusha mentioned. And so even the one of the more recent episodes where she's talking about, you know, Nita takes her out to a bunch of different places, and then gets like jealous of the fact that she's so much more well behaved than pretty much anybody in his life that he has to put up with. And she just talks about things like, you know, like, I don't want to do anything unless you want to do it as well. We both should be having fun. And I was like, oh my god.
I think everyone empathized with Nita. They're like, who cares about Hina right now?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It was insane. I have not seen the most recent episode, the one where they get trapped in the mountains, but I'm excited to see that one, because I actually it was like right before this podcast, I was like, I better watch Megalobox before I do anything, because I don't want to, you know, talk about something that's going to get spoiled. But Hinamatsuri, yeah, definitely one of the better shows, part of like one of the best ones for this season, in my opinion.
I would say so, yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So I think I want to hold off on My Hero Academia until last, just because it's something that we all watched and we all have a lot to talk about, I feel. So let's instead mention something that both you and Deanna, Nusha, you and Deanna have both seen. It's Tokyo Ghoul Re. So I stopped watching Tokyo Ghoul about a few episodes into Root, which is the second season. So
no one
is that
blames you.
Huh?
No one blames you.
No one blames it. Yeah, I heard it wasn't so great. But what was your opinion about that show then?
About Route A?
Yeah.
I dropped it after an episode, I'll be honest.
Oh no, not Route A. I'm sorry. Talk about Tokyo Ghoul Re. I know that you dropped it. I know you dropped that. You told me that.
Yeah. Re. I don't know. It threw me for a loop. Like I wasn't expecting much, to be honest. Especially after like the lackluster showing of Route A, I was kind of expecting to drop the show or just kind of watch it kind of like half interested. But I really liked the cast. I really liked Sasaki. Like I liked his whole fear of regaining his memories and then like wondering what happens to him. I feel like something the show kind of suffers from is, or Ghoul in general kind of suffers from, is there's so many characters sometimes, and I feel like just like whiplash, like every character comes across the screen and we're supposed to remember who they are and what their backstory is, and that's kind of one of the show's strengths but also its weaknesses. I don't know, Deanna, do you feel the same way? Like,
Well, part of the reason for that is because the pacing is so quick. Like they're covering so many chapters in one episode, so you don't have enough time to get to know these characters. But yeah, it's just with Re. I don't know how you want to pronounce it, but they. Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, they are staying pretty much in canon with the manga compared to Route A. But still, the pacing is pretty quick, and it's alarming sometimes because it's like, wait, who is that person?
Yeah. Zach, again, Are you gonna watch this show? Like, do you care if I spoil something at the very end?
Uh, Probably not. Honestly, it's too far ahead. It's like that thing where like I really get into a show, but then when there's new seasons of them being added on before I caught up even in the first season, I kind of give up. My Hero Academia is the exception, of course, but go ahead. I mean, honestly, unless it's something too drastic, then you go ahead and talk about what you want to talk about.
Okay. Shirazu's death, like,
Oh yeah.
floored me. Like, I was distraught. That was like the character that, I don't know, I think everyone was supposed to like fall in love with, and he was in the middle of so many like arcs of his. Like, he was developing relationships with like his teammates, especially Urie. He was learning how to become like a better leader. He was dealing with like the PTSD of killing a ghoul, and like he was beginning to empathize with him, which is really rare for characters in this series. And then all of that just gets like cut off in the middle in the blink of an eye, and it like he didn't even get like last words. He like lost his vision, his hearing, and it was just this like this traumatizing death. And I like it's cool because I know that means Urie is going to have like a crazy amount of development later, seeing this happen to his friend and seeing how like the CCG dealt with it. But like, I don't know, I feel robbed of a great character, and I guess that's the point. That's like what a good death does, I guess.
Yeah, for me it definitely felt more emotional when I read it in the manga. But yeah, it's really that scene still when it was animated.
I think that's what kind of drew me to Tokyo Ghoul in the first place, was because of how crazy the first season was. Because, you know, like when he's being tortured, like that stuff was crazy to look at, and you don't really see it too often, where it's like someone's going through that much pain and that much torture, I guess, that it starts to really affect their psyche to a very deep psychological level. I think that's why the second season, Rude was kind of difficult to watch, because then he's just like a cold-hearted guy, and I'm like, okay, there's too many of those in anime. I don't need another one of those. I need something that's a little more, you know, captivated than that. But it sounds like I should probably get around to watching that, or reading the manga, I guess, in Deanna's case, if it's more effective than the anime was. But, you know, that's something that I should probably get to when I come to it. So now that we've done with new shows lined up, you only had 4 shows, but which, like I said, it's going to change a little bit here. Let's talk. You and Deanna, you and me. Let's talk about Cardcaptor. So yeah.
Yes, this show gave me so many cavities from all the sweet moments.
So yeah, I mean that's actually kind of the feeling I had, because you and me both, if I'm not mistaken, is that you also grew up watching Cardcaptor, right?
Yes. Yep.
So tell me a little bit about like your history with Cardcaptor and your feelings going into the show and your overall reaction to it.
Well, with Cardcaptor Sakura, I watched it in middle school, I think, on YouTube. So I don't remember if I watched like the episodes in order, because it just was like scattered all throughout YouTube. But I just remember listening to the opening, the Catch Me, Catch You song.
Oh, that's that's one of the best songs.
Yeah, it was like iconic.
Yes.
Yeah. And just seeing Sakura becoming this heroine who just does everything on her own without really like depending on a guy to save her, in the same fashion as Sailor Moon. It's inspired me in a lot of ways.
Totally, and it's crazy to think about, like in this one where they're just talking about how she has become such a powerful person, and yeah, she's got a good degree of independence that is kind of nice, you know, and the fact that yes, she can pretty much handle everything on her own with her cards, and that's the cards of her own making, and so it's her own magic. It's something that she created using her own hidden powers, and it's been kind of thrilling to see that, because for me it was that I grew up watching, you know, the Cardcaptors, the 4Kids version or whatever, on TV, with the crazy theme song, where they basically cut a lot of content, especially like the romances between the characters that was completely cut off in the American version, because, you know, it's just like Sailor Moon. They don't want people to know that they have anything other than traditional relationships going on in this show, which is kind of silly in the grand scheme. But then yes, after doing that, I actually went back a couple years ago, and I had actually it's been like a few years now. I watched all 70 plus episodes of the original Cardcaptor, and then so going into this, you also got to see the premiere of Clear Card last
The
Anime Expo,
prologue.
right? Yes.
Yes.
What was your reaction when you saw that?
It was definitely really cute. Just being a part of the audience where everyone was going like, "Aw," and all that stuff. It was just great that you could share that moment with everyone. It was kind of hard to see the subtitles because I was sitting towards the back, but even without like reading it, I could just get into the mood and seeing Sakura and Shaoran reuniting and just being freaking cute together.
That was like, yeah, when Shaoran shows up, you're like, oh, and then he said it. It's like it's that type of thing, They've got like this very adorable teenager, not even teenager, like a middle, like just entering middle school relationship, preteen. Like it's gonna be shocking if this lasts forever, but it looks like it will because they've got this very strong connection with each other in many ways. Definitely, yeah, I definitely felt the mood in that auditorium when people were just seeing what was going on screen and just seeing the return of those characters. A lot of them like voiced by the same people that were the original voices, still sounding exactly the same, which is kind of crazy when that show came out like 20 years ago.
Right.
But it was great. They did a really good service to that series because it had a new director and everything. Yet he was still able to capture a lot of the same feelings that people had watching the original. It's crazy to think that still holds up pretty well. And what was your overall feelings with how they handled Clear Card then?
Clear Card, I feel like, I enjoyed most of the episodes, although some of them definitely felt like filler episodes.
Yeah.
We were like, when we were talking with like each episode every week, we kind of felt like the questions that we had weren't answered. It just kind of like who's under that hood and all that stuff.
They really dragged that stuff out, yeah.
Yeah, and then the ending, of course, like, oh, so it was Akiho, but then it still felt underwhelming, like there's still a lot more that needs to be resolved.
Exactly. We all kind of guessed it several episodes ago, like almost immediately. It's like, I know who that person is. Yeah, we know. And so like the fact that they're trying to still kind of play it as a mystery, even if it may have been like intentionally like they know the audience knows, but still let's just play it up a little bit, was kind of a little much. And then there were definitely episodes that felt really rushed. Like they're like, oh, all of a sudden there's a card. Oh, there's another one. And there's another one. It was weird, and the weird way that they try to justify it, because of course she can create this magic, and so whenever she needs it, she kind of creates it out of nothing. It's like, but what's the logic? Like, what led her to create this magic? Like the scenarios where suddenly something happens outside, like, oh, I got a new card. It's like I don't know. It's if it was meant to be used as sort of a plot device, it wasn't used particularly well, I don't think. But overall, I got diabetes from the show because it was so sweet. And it's going to be a bummer because it sounds like they'll bring it back, but as you said before, they're not. They have to catch up to the manga.
Yeah.
So it's going to be quite a while before that happens. But for the most part, and it also weird 22 episodes, just kind of an odd number to have. But I guess because they just had premiered the manga earlier last year, and then all of a sudden have the show, it was kind of a weird situation anyway. Like that's a lot of work to do on something they have so little material with. But I guess we'll see what they can do with that. Now you've been watching this show. I'm surprised you're still watching this show because I thought that everyone had dropped it. Golden Kamui. Kamui? How do you pronounce it?
Kamui.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first few episodes, animation and the CGI bears like kind of threw everyone for a loop, but it definitely got better, especially the facial expressions. Like Nisha, I know you were kind of upset that the facial expressions weren't as accurate as the manga.
Yeah, like I haven't read the manga, but I know that was like one of its main selling points was like these crazy reaction shots, and then those kind of not being present for the first episode coupled with like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the fire, the bear, and the wolf.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I'll just pick up the manga at a later date.
Yeah.
So, does it get better? You're saying it gets better?
It gets better. I don't know if you like see some posts on Twitter, but a lot of people use it as like memes. But yeah, it's better. It's pretty violent, the show. And I mean, despite that, like there are still some very comedic moments that are kind of like, oh, this is so nice to like just, take away from the violence, but yeah.
The toning is like really weird for me. Like it's supposed to be funny, but then it's about them like finding these criminals and skinning them alive, and I'm like, oh,
okay. What? I didn't know that was the context. Okay.
Did you not watch it?
Me, no. I didn't watch a single episode. I have no history with it.
There's like a treasure or something. Deanna can probably explain this better than I can, but there's like a treasure, and like a bunch of criminals have like a map tattooed on them, and they have to like find them and then like skin these guys for the pieces of the map.
It's like Prison Break, but way better. that's crazy.
So yeah, it's like moments like those where someone's getting like stabbed to death or something, but then the next moment you have like two grown men admiring a flower that's growing in the snow. So yeah.
So it's all about artistic senses. It's like oh my gosh.
But yeah, what I really appreciate about this show too is that it focuses on the Ainu tribe, which it's a real group that has been, what is it, like a minority of Japanese people. So yeah, I think the historical context is really great to learn about too.
Yeah, I mean, I like the style, like you said. I've definitely seen the memes, especially the faces, as you said, that really add to the experience. But it is kind of a weird to have like this really like a juxtaposition. It's like this contrast. That's a better word to say than juxtaposition.
Yeah,
I can't say
an easier word.
This contrast between like the lighthearted moments, but you kind of need that because if it's all the same thing over and over, that's why I can't get into some types of shows because it's like if it's always serious, they take themselves way too seriously, and then I stop caring about it because they are trying too hard. It sounds like, at least in this case, that even if the first few episodes may have not been, on note, which is a shame because that's, the whole impression right there that people would have, at least it gets better, and that's good to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the last episode is going to be out tomorrow, so we'll see how it ends.
Yes. Same with Megalobox. We have to find out next week for that one. And so also you've got Kakuriho, Bed and Breakfast for Spirits. What's that? I actually never heard of that at all.
So I guess you could categorize this as shoujo, but I believe it's based off of a light novel. So basically there's a female protagonist who kind of gets spirited away to this other realm where there are ayakashi or yokai. And basically, her grandfather made a promise to this ogre guy who owns an inn. I know this sounds kind of like, what the heck? But basically, her grandfather promised the ogre that she would marry him. But of course, she was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I want to work off my grandfather's debt. So now she's just cooking food for that inn in that yokai realm. And yeah, it's like a mix of a cooking food genre kind of anime with some shoujo.
I actually think I might have seen images from this. It's very food heavy. Is that the type of thing?
Yeah, although the animation quality isn't that great.
Oh,
so
okay, maybe it's something else because I remember people showing stuff that it was like a level of like Food Wars and stuff like that. So maybe not. But
yeah, I mean, I still enjoy it. I'm a sucker for shoujo, but I kind of wish that the animation quality was better.
Yeah,
like it would get better treatment.
I guess it's more like they may have blown their budget maybe early on. That's kind of the problem that with some of these shows that I'll talk about in a little bit, but we'll find out. So then you've also got I'm gonna mispronounce it. Otaku ni koi wa muskashi. What's a koi? Oh yes.
Okay, so this one is probably one of my favorites of the season because it centers on adult otaku, which you kind of don't really get much these days because they all focus on high schoolers. But with Wotakoi, it's just you have these working adults who are secretly otaku. Well, actually, not secretly. They're kind of pretty open about it. But they'll be playing like video games and manga and like kind of living up to these stereotypes, but in a comedic way. And I was kind of surprised that they showed like them playing the Nintendo Switch because I'm like, oh, that only came out last year. So when did this go into production?
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun, and especially like weebs like us, you get a lot of references, and it's kind of like, oh, even as adults, we can still geek out, have fun.
That's exactly what I want from a show. I need to look this up. That sounds awesome.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I wasn't super interested at first, but like learning what it was about, I think I saw like a video a couple days ago. It seemed actually like it had potential to be really kind of sweet, and I kind of want to check that out now.
Very wholesome. It's kind of focused on romance too, but I mean, when you have otaku, and plus the title, like love is hard for an otaku. Of course, they're gonna make fun of that.
Yeah, it's an easy thing for people in Japan to make fun of. I think that's part of the reason. Yep. People can relate also as well. And so actually, there's another one here that I'm also gonna probably butcher. Rakuhodo Yatsuyo Yori.
So I think that anime is the one that you probably saw screenshots of with the really good quality food.
Oh, yes, you're right. Okay,
yes, I know. So basically there's 4 ikimen or handsome guys who run this tea shop, and they basically just work with customers who have like kind of like a backstory, and they cook food and kind of weave, that kind of episode format. There's a customer who comes in, there's a problem, and then they kind of cook food to make them remember like tender moments of the past that they forgot, So kind of like that. But this show, I was kind of surprised that I enjoyed it a lot because there was a lot of comedy too, and it's, even though there's like 4 Bishonen as the main cast, like I think anyone can enjoy the show.
Yeah, I think that
especially for the food.
Exactly, like the animation quality and definitely the characters themselves and the facial expressions. I'm going through some images right now, and it's definitely a Bishonen, but yeah, it's got a good quality to it for sure from the video that I'm watching right now. So I totally get what you're saying on that. It also makes me super hungry because there's a lot of pictures of sushi, and I could really kill for some sushi right now. So. So we got a few more, actually a couple more, thankfully. It's just a lot of shows, but this is how we're going to get into this here. Let's talk about Darling in the Franxx. Now, this is something that I am kind of ashamed that I didn't watch more of because this is Studio Trigger, who I've got a lot of appreciation for, probably one of my, if not my favorite studio. But I kind of fell off, and I know Nusha, you did too. You fell off the train with Darling in the Franxx after so many episodes. I don't know if it's because the pacing was weird and that I just had kind of lost my motivation to really stick with it compared to the other shows that were just keeping all my attention. But Deanna, you stuck with it though.
So maybe? Initially I also dropped it, but then after hearing all the discussion surrounding it, I was kind of like, okay, let's give this another go. And so I'm keeping up now, and I can definitely say that it gets more weirder.
It does, and apparently there's a big reveal, like a scene that happens that people have been waiting for like a dozen episodes for someone to say, like, it's this thing like, we're sick and tired of your shit, okay? That's the kind of thing that it looked like happened. For the main protagonist, who basically was very selfish in every decision that he made, and everyone else is like, you know what, we're sick and tired of cleaning up your mess, we're just kind of hanging out here, and we have to kind of go along with the ride, and we're sick and tired of it. And I think that was important to be said, because that's kind of the feeling I got for a bit there. It's like, okay, now that he's in the right, it's and he was treated differently than everybody else, now that he can associate himself with everybody, it's going to his head. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure everyone's watching the show for 02.
Yes,
but
that's kind of it, right?
Yeah, because Hero is your typical like bland, boring male character,
Kind of
to
a
be
The
honest.
name didn't give it away.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just some episodes you can tell that Trigger did most of the direction, but A1, I just
That's right.
like...
A1 Pictures helped on this. Oh, I forgot
Yeah.
about
So I don't know. I feel like if you guys are curious, and plus just to see more Trigger animation, then yeah, watch it. But the story definitely gets a bit convoluted.
That's that's the kind of thing that was kind of difficult to follow. But Nusha, like you had fallen off on it as well. Is there a particular reason why you did that?
I fell off like, I don't know, episode 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And I tried to pick up a couple more episodes, and it seemed like they just kept adding more and more and more without really delving into what they had already set up. And it just kind of reached like critical mass for me. And at one point, I was just like, I don't know, I'm not really caring too much about these characters anymore. I feel like I'll go back and finish it at one point, but just I don't have that drive to watch it every week like I do the 4 shows that are like listed under my name, you know?
So that's the kind of feeling that I had. It's just that everything else had more dimension to it, or at least went back and delved into the characters more. In this case, it was kind of tricky, but the fact that it does get better does make me want to go back and watch it more. So maybe if I have some time with all the different shows that I plan on watching this season, this upcoming season, I would love to check that out and chat with you about that some more, Deanna, when we get the chance.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll find out. But now, like, I don't know what either of these shows are that you're going to talk about, but what's To Be Heroine? Heroine.
To Be Heroine is a spinoff to Be Hero, and it's a Japanese-Chinese production. So there's some Japanese and Chinese dialogue mixed in, but basically there's this heroine who kind of creates this fantasy world where she is trying to deal with her real life problems, and in that fantasy world it's kind of like there are babies with like powers to control like clothes that turn into humans.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the first few episodes, like, it was just kind of like, what the hell is going on? Like, you have these half naked babies who are controlling clothes that turn into humans, and they like fight each other to the death, and then they disappear. And then, yeah. But in recent episodes, there's been like 5 episodes so far, but they go back to the real reality, and it's basically the female protagonist. She's struggling with, does she want to listen to what her parents say, or does she want to like follow her heart, that kind of story. But I really like the animation, the color schemes. It's nice to see that, China is kind of getting more, exposure, I guess, to, not exposure, but like working with anime that is being streamed to Western audiences.
Yeah, I know that. Was it like they added it to Crunchyroll not too long ago, like maybe in the past month or two, after it was not pretty much shown anywhere that was legally accessible, and so now that it's on there, it's definitely a lot easier to watch that. But it looks pretty neat. I definitely like. I know what you're talking about as far as the art style to it. So I probably will watch that. Actually, it looks pretty good. I like the look of it. So okay.
Yeah, for the international release, I heard that they cut down a lot of scenes, so it kind of felt more rushed.
Oh.
And that it doesn't kind of cuts away from the hard work that people put into those animation scenes. So hopefully, like, we can have access to the full episodes where
the uncut version.
Yeah.
Better buy the Blu-ray or something like that. I guess,
yeah.
If they start doing that to us, where we need to buy the Blu-ray to get the better version of a show, like they do in Japan, it's gonna bother me so much on that stuff, because that's kind of ridiculous. Now we get to the last one that you've been watching, Libra of Neil Admirari. I know this is an Ultimate because I've heard the name before. Ultimate, of course, is the Idea Factory Ultimate brand that they've got, their subsidiary. So I know it's that kind of show. But what's it like? What was it like watching it? What was it like? I don't know.
Well, so a lot of anime that is based off of otome usually the female protagonist, she's kind of like a zombie, doesn't really have a personality because essentially like it's supposed to relate to the player, so that's why she doesn't really have a set personality. But for this show, it was really enjoyable. Kuze, the protagonist, she has a lot of agency, and it's not too focused on romance, which I can kind of appreciate because there's a real story going on with them trying to capture criminals with these tomes that are cursed. So animation quality was surprisingly really good too, and I just watched the last episode this morning, so yeah, hopefully there's another season, but because there was kind of like a tease at the end. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's weird how big an audience the Ultimate Crowd is, yet there's not really a lot of shows that you can enjoy. You know, there was like Door 9, Code Realize, and like all these other shows that came up before, but it's usually like, you know, like maybe 1 or 2 a season. Considering how popular that genre is, I'm surprised about that. But clearly, if this one's good, I do know what you're talking about though, as far as the insert characters. It goes the other way with like harems, excuse me, from the games I played. It's pretty bad in terms of how they represent the character themselves, but it's nice to see at least someone give some personality to that, which is important for an anime, if anything. Come on.
Right.
I don't know, like I don't know if the game is the same or if they just changed the character to fit the show, but you know, that would be important, I guess. So for me, other than the ones we've talked about and the one we'll get to, I saw Gigigi no Kitaro. People don't know. It's a long-running series that's been around since the 60s in Japan. It's gone through, I think, like 6 or 7 different seasons of shows. A lot of movies, OVAs, manga, all kinds of stuff from a show that's that long-running. So this is like the first time I ever decided to get into it because I like the style to it. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Gundam Build Fighters with the character designs. A lot of big heads, but very descriptive, like very detailed faces and everything. It looked kind of neat, and so I decided to get into it. And so far, it's been kind of fascinating because it all revolves around this character named Kitaro, who is a member of this tribe where he's like half yokai or half demon and half human. And so it basically talks about, like, every so often he's living off in this little like parallel dimension world in like a forest, and people can summon him if they get encounters with any yokai to have him come and, you know, protect them and to take care of whatever the problem is to save the people. And it gets pretty crazy a lot of the time. Like, there's definitely been, like, you know, there's Kappa demons for sure. I forget what the name of it. It's like the raccoons. I forget what the Japanese, huh? Tanukis. Yes. So there's that, and the other characters that get involved are pretty great. Which I guess they call her Cat Chick, but it's like a Neko, Neko Atsume. She is a great character that's highly entertaining and also super adorable and also pretty great in many respects. I think she's my favorite character. And there's also this human girl named Mana, who is also a treat because despite the fact that, you know, she had this encounter with the yokai and now is good friends with Kitaro and everybody else, you know, she sometimes gets involved every so often. Like, every time she's around, like, those are some of the best episodes just because of how her involvement is kind of crucial to balancing everybody else out in terms of, you know, like how they react and how they their emotions and everything. And then there's this rat character that is just terrible. Awful human being slash yokai. That's, yeah, he's like, think of like a human with the face of a rat and the ears of a rat. That's kind of what he is. But he's like, in the past few episodes that I've watched, and, you know, this seems like the type of show that's going to go on forever, just because that's the type of show it is. He turned from being like this, like, oh, why this wise guy, you know, he's just trying to get his own, you know, he's kind of selfish, but he's all right, you know, he's kind of good natured in a sense. It's turned into a complete selfish asshole. That's all I can really say, and it's been kind of challenging to watch a little bit because, you know, it gets a little too serious, and like I was saying before, it's when it gets a little too serious, intentionally so, and really leans into it. I stop getting really invested in it because it feels forced. And so I hope that, you know, they kind of reel it back a little bit. But for a show like this, like, I typically don't get into shows that can go on forever, like they last a long time. Like, I think that the early seasons of the show had like 100 episodes per season. So I hope that I can really stick with it, because now that, you know, we've got other shows to look forward to, I kind of still want to have at least that one show that I can kind of keep going back to remember those people. But the show that I also want to talk about is Sword Art Online Alternative. This show.
Oh boy.
This show, I know, Deanna, you were watching some of it as well. You didn't put it up there, but, you know, it's something that you fell off, and I don't blame you, because
Oh no, did it get bad?
it goes places, man. It goes places.
Man, I want to hear about this.
So, it all revolves around, like, I'm terrible with names, so I'm not gonna call the names of the characters, but the main character girl is like Len. That's her in-game character's name. So the thing is that she's got a bit of a complex because of her height. She's really tall, and so she felt like every time she was walking around that people like to point it out, and, you know, she got really embarrassed about it. And so her friend suggests that she gets into an online game, which is, you know, Sword Art Online, Gun Gale Online, which is the gun-based version of that. That's like the more recent Sword Art Online episodes have been all about, which is, you know, just like a big first-person shooter. So she gets into it, and her character turns out to be like this really tiny girl that, you know, she dresses her up in pink clothes, and she gets like this P90 that she calls P-chan, and then she, you know, she's got this weird ability where she can like run super fast, and so that's kind of her thing, that she can like take down pretty much everybody because she's so damn quick. But what happens is that she encounters this other person, Pito, this woman, I should say, that is got some problems with her. She's kind of crazy, to say the least. So you know, Anusha, I don't know how far you've watched in that. Have you watched any of it, actually?
No, I haven't. I know about it, and I know people were kind of excited to see like a sword art that was good
Without Kyoto?
Yeah, exactly.
I will say it's still good. It's still better than Sword Art Online has ever been. And this is someone who still has some appreciation for that series. Like Sword Art Online 2, I watched maybe like halfway through the season, and I just dropped it. Not for any particular reason, just because I kind of forgot to keep up with it. But this is a lot better just because, yes, it's all original characters. Nobody from the past series ever makes an appearance, at least so far. But the problem is that at some point, one of the characters that she joins a tournament with, M, who's like this big hulking guy that has like this gigantic shield that he can drop in front of him to protect himself from any oncoming fire. He's got a relationship with Pito, the crazy woman, and it turns out that she was jealous of the people who in the first Sword Art Online got trapped inside the game, and she got jealous of the fact that they were able to kind of fight to the death as like player killers, and so she was like, I really wanted to be part of that, and she was bummed out because she basically like left the game before the lockdown began in the original series, and so she got so upset about that, you know, she basically threatened that, you know, I'm gonna go really crazy, and if I don't, what was it? I'm trying to remember because the logic was so convoluted. I'm trying to remember the path that went. It was like, I think that she said something like, you know, if I'm going to join this tournament that, you know, everybody else is involved in, if I get killed in this game and I don't win, I'm going to kill myself in real life. And it got so damn, it turned it like it really ratcheted up to like an extreme level that I was like, what? Because it came out of nowhere. It's like this really extreme character personality that was just, it kind of felt a little bit like early on her character was kind of like, you know, like she loves this game, she plays a ton of it, but, you know, she's also kind of like a senpai to Lynn's character, and, you know, teaching her all these different things about how the game works. But you know, when it came to this point, so M, who's like this other guy that is close to Pito in real life, he comes and visits Lynn's character in real life and tells her that, hey, this is what's going on. She says she's going to kill herself. I care a lot about her. If she kills herself, I'm going to kill myself. And so what we need to do is I need you, Lynn, to kill Pito in the upcoming tournament, because she promised if Len killed Pito that they would meet with each other in real life. So this will basically stop this from ever happening. right then and there, I would have said, hell no, I'm pulling out. I am not getting involved in any of your crazy shenanigans. This has got nothing to do with me. I should call the cops. That was the reaction I had. But no, she's like, you know what? No, I can't go to the cops. I'm gonna help her. I'm just like,
sounds like a really forced way to add stakes. I don't know.
It is, and obviously, people go through these types of mental traumas, but this is like, we're talking about like this is to a cartoonish degree of like, the way a character would normally act. It's like, clearly this person's disturbed, has some mental health issues. We should really get her the help that she needs to work through these problems. But in this case, it was more like, no, we can do it ourselves. And it kind of threw everything through a loop. From that point on, I stopped caring so much about the story and the characters. And it's a bit of a shame, because the real life personalities are kind of fascinating with the way that they act. Like, there's like, so she's got the main character who's got like a hype complex, but then you've got like this other group of girls that are part of this gymnastics group that are very short, and they're have complexes about that as well. So they made characters that are super tall and big and burly to kind of counteract that. So it's like there's really interesting contrast. Once again, using that word contrast, that I kind of enjoyed, that you don't get that from like the original Sword Art Online, where it's like Kirito's like, I was too good looking. I could not bear being so good looking that I was like, I got to change my character for like half an episode, and then really all of a sudden he's got all the girls on him. It's like, was it really such a bad thing for you? Yeah. I don't know. Super jock.
I'm a good gamer and I'm socially awkward, but every girl wants me, and it's like, okay.
I feel for you. Maybe, I don't know. All these girls
I empathize with that.
Yeah, I'm going to try to find my connection with this person. It's not so great in that regard. There's definitely some really good characters in the original Sword Art Online that I liked, but that part of it was always like, roll your eyes, whatever. Kirito, I think, is probably one of the weakest characters in anime, so I didn't really care so much, just because he's so overpowered that it's ridiculous. So it didn't matter to me. Which is funny, because this fall a new Sword Art Online series premieres, and so it's going to be kind of a bit of a whiplash going from this to that. But we'll see what happens, I guess. So that's kind of been my experience with that. So we've talked about all those shows. As you can see, I've also watched Megalobox, Cardcaptor, Henematsuri, which loved. Let's talk about My Hero Academia. I want
Plus Ultra.
Yes, United States of Smash. It's so freaking insane. I've not watched the most recent episode, so let's maybe not talk about that particular episode.
Oh, dude, everyone's dead.
Oh, damn. What have I missed?
You want to talk about pacing?
I didn't know anyone was dead. All right, Nusha, tell me about your feelings on My Hero Academia.
All good. I love this show. I love this manga. I love everything about this series. I think when you were talking about season 3, Zach, you were like, "Oh, I kind of want to get into it." I was like, season 2 has the 2 best arcs the entire series has to offer.
Yes.
And season 3, seeing it like animated and with the amazing music and voice acting and everything, completely convinced me that I was wrong on that front. And I feel like the anime does what a good adaptation's supposed to do, and it takes the source material and just adds so much to it. And these past like couple of episodes are the perfect example of that. Like, you see, because of the great world building, that All Might's like this huge linchpin of this society, and now that he's kind of forced into retirement, it brings up all these questions like, what are the heroes going to do? What are the villains going to do? What's the number 2 hero going to do now that his main rival's gone? And it just opens the door for so much more. And I don't know. I'm excited for everything this series has to offer. I already know what happens because I read the manga, but I'm excited to see more and more animated.
It's a Game of Thrones style. I already read the books. Actually, that actually doesn't matter anymore, does it? Deanna, what are your feelings on this series so far?
It's a show that I look forward to every week. And with this season, I really like that there are more villains, more like new characters that have been introduced. I think I saw someone post that the All for One's intro, like when he appears, people said that the anime did it a lot better than the manga, just because you can hear the music and see the characters' reactions to All for One. And that moment was just kind of like, whoa, like this guy's no joke,
Yeah.
you know?
He's
Yeah,
obviously a
that
big
creepy,
deal.
like soundtrack playing as he appears too.
Hmm.
Really like sold it. Really brought it home.
You want to salute every time he's on screen, you know, just like, oh my god, he's here. That's definitely been the reaction I had. And yeah, like you said, that I had fallen off at about episode 10. And once again, it's just because I got caught up with other things. I actually took like a big break from anime for quite a while, because I had so much stuff to do for the site and other stuff that, you know, I just could motivate myself, which is a big bummer. But the good news is I came back right at the end of season 1, so I was already like full on, this is full hype mode, you know, everything's really exciting because they're trying to wrap up the season. So it was already, the fact that it was already super excited meant that I was already hooked on what was going on with it, because I had already kind of remembered what happened, what came before, but this is when, you know, they put the budget into everything, so I was able to kind of enjoy it from there. And like you said, second season with the tournament and all, that was insanely hype. It was insanely good, and all the amazing animation that they poured into that budget. And of course, all the different character developments that are going on with here, like what they're going through, their family problems that they're dealing with at home, was powerful. It was done very well, and particularly like I'm sure, like you said, like they treated the source material very well, because you can kind of tell that even if it's an anime, there's definitely that graphic novel style to it, or you know, manga style to the way that the designs are made, that you can still kind of feel that history. And it's like any good comic book movie, you know, you still get that sense of this, of what this is based on, and I really appreciated it from that standpoint as well. Like I said, I haven't seen the most recent episode, but boy, the way it's going right now, it's kind of nuts. And Deku's such a good character that I'm just really happy about.
Such a great character.
Yes.
So you want to root for everything that boy does.
Yes.
That boy.
That boy.
My boy.
Gotta root for that boy. The same with like Joe from like Megalobox. You want to root for him every time that he's doing something. So it's the same like this season. In many respects, even if this is like a carryover from last year, like all these different shows have been insanely good to watch, and it's from everyone I know that has been talking about this, that have been watching anime for years and years, like we have. They're saying it's like one of the best that they've seen in a long time, and this is kind of like all these shows that you know, people who are watching this on the live stream could see. Of course, the people listening also on the podcast can tell. There's just so much good stuff to watch this season. So if you haven't seen any of these shows, we highly recommend checking this out for yourself, any of these shows for yourself. I would say, you know, I want to actually go around and say like what your top 3 were real quick. Just a kind of name. For me, it's definitely Megalobox number 1, My Hero Academia number 2. I'm going to have to say Sword Art Online. No. Hinamatsuri number 3. What about you, Deanna? Try to narrow it down to 3.
I know.
And then I'll have the exact opposite problem.
Honestly, it's the same as yours, Zach, but I would switch My Hero with Megalo. So My Hero would be 1, Megalo 2, and then Hinamatsuri 3.
I completely agree. That's my listing too.
So it's Megalobox, Hinamatsuri, My Hero Academia.
Yep.
Awesome. That's the kind of the feeling that I thought we all had, was like these 3 shows. You know, if anything, these 3 shows you really need to see. And you know, as someone like me who doesn't really get into sports anime that much, like what was it? I didn't really get into Haikyuu. I didn't really get into, what was that bicycle anime that's got like a billion seasons?
Pedal?
Yeah, I watched like the first maybe dozen episodes, and then as soon as they kept announcing new seasons, like, this is just a shoujo, isn't it? Just for anime. I got kind of tired of it. So this is something that you know, with its great back and soundtrack that sound like Samurai Champloo style to it, it's amazing. And I want to pick up the vinyl when it comes out. That soundtrack is gonna be out soon, and I really want to pick it up. So we'll see it.
It's so good.
So let's move into the next section that we've got. Check out the sweet transition though as I do it. We're going to talk about the shows that are coming up next season. Now, we're not going to spend too much time with this, just because, you know, there's a lot of shows that we're going to see, and I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm just going to kind of highlight everything, and we'll show it all on screen. It's a little lopsided, I'll say, just because I'm getting super back into anime, and so it's important for me to kind of check all these shows out. But we've got a lot to look forward to, and so I actually did some writing up here, so I kind of wanted to. I'll go through my stuff real quick, and then Deanna, of course, you can go up next, followed by Nusha, just like the order shows here. And so the first that we've got here is Saturiku no Tenshi. So I've got this nice little image here for people to check out. So this is kind of funny. It's about that girl on the right. This might be fan art, by the way. I don't think it's official art. But so it's about a girl who kind of wakes up. She's like 13, I think. She's trapped in a basement of an abandoned building. And then she meets this man who's covered in bandages. The guy on the left, and his name is Zach. So I was like, oh, I could associate. Yes. And so, yeah, he's like carrying a large scythe. And so they're working together to kind of find a way out. So that's definitely one of the shows that I kind of caught my eye. It has a cool look to it. Both characters look fascinating, especially Zach's character. Go figure. That I'm kind of interested to see like where they'll take it. And then we've also got Grand Blue. So Nusha said he isn't too into comedy anime. I am super into comedy anime, as long as it's good enough. And it's about that boy and the guy on the right. People can't see this, but he's got black hair. About a boy who's starting college near the ocean in Izu City. And so he moves into his uncle's dive shop that's called the Grand Blue. It looks silly. Like a lot of the facial animations definitely is going to probably sell that show because it gets into the point where it's almost like JoJo style, which I kind of appreciate. And way over the top, like a lot of like cut in humor, and I kind of need that, especially in the summer. That's like the good stuff to have during the summer, is a good like summer comedy anime. So definitely going to be checking that out as well. And then we've got Chiyo-chan no Tsukaguro. That's going to be premiering at Anime Expo, by the way. It's weird. Like it's described as an extreme going to school comedy that follows a girl named Chiyo as she tries to get to school in a bunch of different ways. What I appreciate most about this, the heroine is voiced by Naomi Ozora, who voiced Satania in Gabriel Dropout. And that's all I really need to know because I love that show, and Satania is like the best character from that. So that kind of caught my eye immediately. And I'm definitely going to be checking that out at Anime Expo, and we'll go over that later. And it's also the same studio that did Squid Girl in Kentai Collection, and so that should make it that it's got some good quality. It's got some weird references in there as well, like in the trailer. There's like this PUBG style to it. It's gonna go places, and I can tell already. And I'm kind of just going through some of those shows that I don't think anybody else has. And so there's also Island, which is based on a visual novel by Frontwing, who did the Grisaya series. I don't know if either of you are familiar with that visual novel series, but they are pretty popular, and they got a really good art style to it. So it's about three families who live on an island that's far away from mainland Japan. And then what happens is that, like, after a series of misfortunes that they go through, they're in trouble. And so these three girls are basically the daughters of the families. But then suddenly a man who's claiming he's from the future washes ashore and tries to save the island. So that could also go places. And, if you check the trailer out, it's got a cool look to it as well. Like, I like the character designs from that. And so I'm looking forward to that as well. I actually never got to see the Grisaya anime. Funny enough, that's the problem with playing a visual novel before and not only going through one route before actually watching the anime, because I did that with Grisaya and I got spoiled so hard in the first episode of that show that I was like, okay, I gotta stop, because I need to put another 40 hours into each and every single arc before I can figure out what's going on in this one episode. So I think I'm just gonna go into this fresh and enjoy it the way it were. Then I've also got Happy Sugar Life, which is looking kind of disturbing. I don't know if either of you saw the PV for this, though, but it looks pretty dark. Everything starts off all kind of happy, in a sense. It's weird because I think it's about a girl that is considered easy in her school. So suddenly she meets like this kid who she sort of obsesses over and tries to protect her, to the point that she even commits violence against those who may try to hurt the child. So it looks pretty dark. Looks like there's going to be a lot more going on below there. I'm usually not that much into horror anime or that type of style, like the Higurashi or stuff like that. But, I'm going to try this out. It could be garbage and I might drop it, but I'm kind of curious to see where this could go. So that's another one of the shows that I've got on here. And then I've also got... Hold on, I need to find it. Hurricane Receive. So yeah, it's about a group of girls that are aiming for the junior tournament in beach volleyball. So it looks kind of neat. It has the same. The director is also the character designer for the Automaster series and the Lunar game series, which is weird that they're the same. The person who made the character, did the character designs for Automaster, also did all those Lunar games from like the PlayStation era. So that's going to be kind of interesting. And yeah, I mean, it could definitely be like, it's definitely looking to be like all about the fan service, but I kind of like the character designs and the style to it all. And it looks like, you know, sometimes what may appear to be just be simple fan service turns into something a lot deeper than that, and I'm kind of hoping that they'll take that kind of turn with it. I don't know what the I've never read the source material that this is based off of, but it's also the only anime you could probably say where every episode is a beach episode. So maybe
oh boy, my favorite.
Aside from maybe like Squid Girl or something like that. That's kind of what I was curious about. So that's kind of like a lot of the shows that I've been seeing. Obviously, we've got some other stuff that we're also going to be checking out. So, Deanna, why don't you go down the stuff that you're going to be checking out?
Okay, so Attack on Titan, of course, season 3. I'm looking forward to this one because it's going to focus more on Levi, which I think people have complained like the previous season. He was kind of absent, but that's because his arc wasn't his turn yet. So yeah, just pretty self-explanatory. Everyone's gonna be watching it probably.
I've not seen season 2 yet, so I need to catch up. It's weird because I reviewed both Attack on Titan games, and I need to catch up on that show. So.
Oh yes. So next one is Banana Fish, which is based off of a manga from 1980s.
Really? Oh wow.
And yeah, so and you can kind of tell in the art style too.
Yeah.
But basically, I think Ash, the blonde character, he is the leader of a gang, like, and he works for this mafia boss as like a sex slave, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah,
Wow.
but there's like I think his older brother was in the Vietnam War a few years ago, and he said the phrase banana fish, and I guess Ash is trying to figure out like what that means. And then the dark-haired character, I don't know his name, but he's like, I think he's a Japanese journalist who's trying to cover the story about all this banana fish business. So it's interesting. So
sorry.
Yeah.
Let's get to the bottom of this banana fish.
Let's get to the bottom of this banana fish.
So yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to.
And then also, speaking of beach episodes,
Free Dive to the Future.
I gave you the best picture for this, by the way, too.
Kyoto Animation, they haven't released like a real PV. Like they showed like a 30-second one where it's just text and EDM music and stuff. But I mean, you could probably tell what it's going to be about, like just more friendships, more swimming tournaments,
more abs,
the water animation.
Yeah.
More abs.
That sweet water animation. But yeah. Yep.
That's been
That's
the
all I
big
gotta
thing.
say about Dive.
Let's talk about this particular show, because we're all going to be checking it out. Cells at Work. Tell me, Deanna. What's Cells at Work? I did not write anything about Cells at Work, so you can do this. I just thought it looked awesome.
Well, I wasn't taught that my cells look like anime characters in biology.
Yes, he's the white cell, apparently.
But this is interesting because, you know, talking about cells in your body,
It's
how
like
they
Inside
work.
the Disney movie. Yeah, it looks fascinating because it's all about it doesn't matter if you're male or female. It's just talking about what's going on inside your body. So there's all these different things happening, all these conflicts that are going on, and then you've got this white cell character, this guy, who's protecting everybody from what's going on. So it's funny because like he's attacking blood cells, so that's why he's got like a lot of blood on him. But that's like an excuse to have a lot of violence, I guess. But it's got a really cool style to it. I like how he just looks like someone straight from like a manga. Like it's like Take On Me or something like that. He's just putting him into the show and see what happens. This is probably going to be one of the big standouts from the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are excited for this one. I already see a lot of people making the Osmosis Jones the anime joke about this one. Yeah, I'm interested in it. It doesn't seem like something I'd usually get into, but the premise seems interesting enough, and I'm interested to see just how literal they get with it. Like at the end of the PV, you literally see the red blood cell delivering a package of oxygen. So I'm curious to see how far this goes exactly, but it looks well made. The characters look interesting, and yeah, I'm excited to give that a shot.
Exactly. I'm glad we're all watching. Oh, there's a few shows that we're all going to see, so we can all talk about it. So continue on, Deanna. We got Holmes at Kyoto.
So for that one, it's a mystery anime, just revolving around antiques. And I guess the cast, they just try to figure out the mysteries that are behind these antiques. And that's it.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like Kyoko or something like that. That'd be interesting, like the mysteries behind things.
Oh yeah. And Tsukimogami Kashimasu. I guess similar to the previous anime where it's about objects, except these objects have spiritual, like, beings coming out from it or something.
Does look really cool.
Yeah, these siblings own that shop where those spirits like come from the objects. So yeah, that'll be interesting.
And then we've got the return of Gintama, talking about comedy anime.
Oh yes, so Silver Soul arc is supposed to be the last arc of Gintama, but the manga is still ongoing. And I don't know if it's the mangaka's like way of kind of parodying like final arcs for shonen manga, but it keeps on going. And for fans of Gintama, like that's a good sign, but still it's enjoyable, and it's one of the more serious arcs. Like these past few arcs have been pretty serious and getting into the main plot and more character driven stories. But still, there's some humor trickled in there, and just what it makes Gintama the comedic anime that it is.
The best parody in anime out there. So, like I said,
Yep.
It's gonna be great.
All those references.
A lot of references. Oh my gosh, I have to like read up guides about the references just because it's kind of hard to analyze what's actually going on here. So then we've also got this really cool looking show that I can kind of step in here a little bit and talk about. So Tenro, Sirius the Jaeger. And so this is an action thriller. It's about a bunch of vampire hunters fighting over this holy ark called the Ark of Sirius. It's got an interesting pedigree. It's from PA Works is the studio handling this, but it's also got director Masahiro Ando. People don't know, he's worked on shows like Full Metal Alchemist, Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop. He directed that sort of the Stranger movie that I showed you a bit ago, Deanna. He is got a hell of a pedigree. A lot of it has to do with Bones, the makers of Full Metal Alchemist. So he's, or at least the anime anyway. And so, yeah, it looks really good. It looks really good. What's your opinion on it, Nusha?
Yeah, it looks really good. And there's like a lot of really, really interesting looking action shots and choreography. It looked like there's a really diverse cast of characters too. I'm interested to see how they get kind of fleshed out. Is this announced to be like only 12 episodes, or?
I believe so.
Okay, so I don't know if we're gonna get a lot of that, but a man can hope. The music from the trailer was actually what really caught my attention too. It was like kind of jazzy and like, I don't know, it made me bop up and down in my chair. So I'm gonna check that out. The plot isn't necessarily the most like inspired. It's like, we have to hunt these vampires, and I think the main character had like his village wiped out and he's out for revenge, but I can overlook a lot of that if the action continues to be as good as it looked in that trailer.
Agreed. That's going to be like a big part of it. And it's like definitely one of those action shows like what was it? Stray Dogs. Was it Gengo Stray Dogs? I forget. I was what?
Bungo Stray Dogs?
Yeah, Bungo Stray Dogs. Like I really got into that show. A lot of it had to do with the characters themselves, and Bones, of course, their animation always on point. Obviously this is PA Works, but they always turn in a pretty good pretty good results from the stuff that they work on. So I'm excited for that as well. And yes, the character designs I think are going to hook me in for this. That's kind of, for the most part, like the art aesthetics of shows. It's what draws me into watching a lot of shows. So I'm going to be curious to see how this turns out here. And then moving on a little bit here, Nushan. Come
on, Zach.
Who's
I've known
that?
you like a year.
Oh my god. Sorry. My brain's turning to mush the longer we go. Let's talk about Hanibado, because this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
To give a little bit of a setup, it's about a high school badminton team that has the same composer to Free, so you know that the music's going to be good. But I'm sure you were like me, that when you saw the trailer, you were like, "This looks pretty intense for badminton."
Yeah, like I think you were making a crack at Hajime no Ippo for a second, like, oh, it's like supernatural pretty much. I love sports anime that do that, like the crazy like whooshy wind effects and sound effects and like ridiculous like superhuman feats. Like I'm a huge fan of that. And then sports anime like this one, it seems, they tend to have this great message about like what it means to really chase after like a passion of yours and like the trials and tribulations that come along with that. And it looks like this series is going to have a lot of that, and that coupled with like the amazing like super dynamic and kinetic like animation of them actually playing the game really hooked me on it like as soon as I saw the PV.
Absolutely. And the characters look pretty interesting as well. Like the character that we're looking at right now, I forget her name. I don't know her name, but like she's the short-haired girl that they show at the beginning of the trailer. She'll probably be like the most interesting person among them all, you know? Like she's obviously incredibly intense when playing this, but as you said also, the animation's very fluid. Like the way that they're trying to dart from side to side to obviously return the Batman, but I'm going to be curious to see how it goes. Obviously, it's going to hinge a lot about the characters themselves, but already it's talking about, you know, like this person that is very shy and not sure about their own abilities, that, you know, the manager brings her on because, you know, she's got this crazy physical ability that he wants to, you know, utilize on his team, and to try to take them to, you know, the tops, you know, take them to the tournament and win. So I'm very interested to check this out. It looks also really good looking. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Looks really well made. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So hopefully we get some more about that. I think that we've got only a couple more here that we can go over. So there's High Score Girl, which I'm going to find the picture that I put it here because it's here we go. High Score Girl. So people who don't know about this is something that, you know, it's been pretty popular manga. It's about this unpopular boy who people are looking on the stream. It's the boy on the left, of course, getting beat at video games by a very popular girl, who's the girl on the right. And so what leads from there is that there's a ton of references in the game itself. As you can see, there's a lot of Capcom characters, and they show actual gameplay footage and everything. And that's the same as in the manga. Like they were showing pictures of actual games in the book itself. And what happens from there is that as she basically destroys him in a fighting game, she then proceeds to kind of stalk him from arcade to arcade, beat him in every video game that they try to compete at, and they start to develop this sort of bond from that experience that they have. And so that's kind of the big part of me, is just a lot of it's a lot about the references, but also the characters themselves. But Nusha, you were also drawn to it?
Yeah, it looked pretty interesting. I was definitely drawn to it for like the video game references. I'm a huge fighting game player myself. So,
yeah.
I kind of got drawn to it for the same reason I got drawn to what was it, Wotakoi? I think, Deanna, you were watching.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it kind of got the same message across to me, like these two nerdy dweeby characters and getting to see how their relationship forms and how they create this bond. I was interested. The CG looks kind of off, but
it does, right? I don't know how to feel about that, because I like the art, but the CG part of it, I was like, oh, they're going that way. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's always a bit of a disappointment to see when an adaptation you're really looking forward to results to that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Is it
I have
a certain golden arc?
When we talk about Anime Expo.
Oh yes.
But yeah, I'm excited. It looks like it has a lot of promise, and I know, Zach, you spoke highly of it, and so that kind of also turned me towards it.
Yeah, it's a great book, and I'm excited to see out more about that. You know, It also reminds me of New Game, and I would love if they put a new season of New Game out. I don't know if either of you saw that show, but it's pretty great. It's all about game development. It's pretty awesome. And so I think that the last one we've got across the entire groups, I think that I've covered everything I wanted to, Diana. And then we've got you, of course, Amu, Yo, and Roji's Bureau of Supernatural Investigation.
Am I the only one that's interested in this one?
I've never heard of it before, honestly.
I have never heard of it before, but I remember when I used to play Jump Superstars, the Muhyo, the little kid with like the book, was a playable character, and I used to love him a lot. So basically, it's supposed to be a story about these two characters that run, wouldn't you believe it, a supernatural investigation bureau.
Whoa!
And yeah, whoa. And so I don't know. It seems kind of interesting. I love the character designs. It looks to be really well made. It kind of gave me vibes of the show you were talking about earlier, Zach, Kitaro. And
Yes.
yeah, there was also a scene that it very briefly played where it showed the two of them in their like bureau trying to convince this girl to go along with their service, and it gave me huge Mob Psycho vibes, like Reagan and Mob. I'm pretty sure this came out well before Mob Psycho, but seeing that also drew me towards it. So I'm really interested to see where this show goes.
Absolutely. Let us know how it goes, for sure. So
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
it. So we've got a ton of different shows that we see. I've got like, let's count, like 3, 6, 9. I got 10, 3, 6, 8 for Deanna, 3, 6, 7 for Nusha. So Nusha's still the least amount, but I think I've
You
kind
were
of
gonna call
balanced
me
things out a little bit here. Oh, I forgot this other image I had. It's of Sarah from Ireland, and I thought that she has some crazy hair that I kind of wanted to show. So that was like, what?
I liked her hair, yeah.
Yes. All right, so let's kind of move into the next big feature that we've got. I did not do any research on this, so I'm gonna look to you guys to help us figure this out. The list of shame. So what we're gonna do here is that we are gonna watch a show that we have never seen before, and what we're gonna do is watch a few episodes every week. I think we agreed, like, what, 3 episodes or 2 episodes? What do you guys think?
I can do like 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
2 or 3? 2 or 3? What do you think would be best?
Let's do 2.
2. Yes, I think that might be better. Okay, so we'll do 2 episodes a week. We'll meet back together and talk about what we want to see. But let me just set this up here. So we're going to go through some of the shows that we've never seen before that we kind of want to watch, but we'll be more motivated to do so if we have other people with us to kind of share in that. So what are some of the shows that you haven't seen that you'd like to? I'm going to start Trigun. I have not seen Trigun before.
I've actually never seen Trigun either.
Me neither.
Oh, well, we got a first one here. So, actually, I'm gonna make that a little bit bigger for people to see. So, Trigun. Keep naming shows that you haven't seen that you've been wanting to watch but haven't had the opportunity to.
Okay. I have a few like big weeb no-nos of shows that I haven't seen. One huge one is Evangelion. That's
Same.
one I
Oh
haven't
my
seen.
god,
Yeah.
you guys have not seen Evangelion, my favorite
Damn, that
anime.
makes me feel so good that you haven't seen that either.
Oh my god. I have... That show is so damn good. It's my favorite. Actually, I forgot I was gonna actually go back and ask you guys what your favorite anime was, and Evangelion, I think, is my number 1. It's always good to watch. Actually, real quick, while we're on the topic, then, what's your favorite anime, Nusha? Gonna put you on the spot.
Really, really tough one. I have a few, but Hajime no Ippo is a huge one. I think we talked about it before. Just like the crazy action, the character development between matches. I feel like I talked about it before with Megalobox, where like the fights were kind of like one note. I feel like Ippo fixes that because they're very long
billion
fights,
episodes.
which, yeah, like a 1200 chapter manga can flesh out a fight. But I don't know, I feel like it fixes that problem by having ups and downs, like the character's winning, then he's losing because someone implements a strategy, then he has to implement another one. And the author's like understanding of how boxing actually works, because I think he owned a gym at a time, really shines through. And so for that and many other reasons, I guess I would say that's my favorite.
What about you, Deanna?
My favorite anime,
Yes.
Gintama.
Of course. Okay, that's what I figured you were gonna say. So I'm glad you just kind of confirmed it for me. Um. So, Neon Genesis Evangelion. 2 out of 3 haven't seen it, which would be still be fine. Like I wouldn't mind an excuse to go back and watch that show again, honestly, because that's something that I've been meaning to. So let's actually, yeah, let's just go like around the table and find out. Like, so Deanna, what's one show that you wish you saw that you haven't seen?
Samurai Champloo.
Same. I listen to the soundtrack a ton, but I have not seen the show at all. That's
Zach, you haven't seen Samurai Champloo?
Nope, I have not seen. Just like an episode, maybe or two from late night Adult Swim, but that's it.
That's genuinely surprising to me. You
Yeah.
always talk about the soundtrack, so I figured.
That's all I listen to, to be honest. It's a bit of an Odyssey thing. Let me think about, like I said, I didn't really write this down, so I'm just actually kind of coming up with some of the stuff off the top of my head. How about, to be honest, I haven't seen, okay, let me be honest, I have not seen it. It's Yu Yu Hakusho. I have not seen it all the way through. I've definitely seen episodes here and there, but I've not sat down and watched all of it at once.
So
this
good.
is
It's one of the very few shows I'd say watch dubbed.
Yeah, that's, of course, you got the voice of Piccolo in there. But it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, so just people know it's that we're creating this list, but you know we're gonna go through a show, but we might go back and watch some of this. Like we're gonna use this as sort of like a reference list for the future as well that we always want to see. So I guess that also means don't go and watch it when we're not around. So that's kind of the thing. So for next, Nusha.
Okay, another one that a lot of people have seen and always give me shit for not watching, Steins Gate.
Oh my god.
I've not seen Steins Gate because I wanted to play the game before then, but you know.
Oh, I'm not alone.
No.
Oh my god, you guys are gonna go through like a crazy trip watching that.
That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, that's honestly like the stuff that I've heard about that. I've not been spoiled on it yet, thankfully. But it's definitely one of those shows that I'm very curious about. So what about you, Deanna?
Puella Magi Madoka?
What's that?
The magical girl one? That Madoka or
Madoka. Oh my gosh, you haven't seen Madoka? That show is so
Really
crazy.
Oh my god!
Oh man. That show was so twisted in so many respects because you had
So
Uro
good.
Butcher handling the writing, so it was always kind of fascinating to see where you went. Nusha, have you seen it?
I have really good
Oh my
like
God.
description of the genre. Threw me for a loop. I remember like my friend, he sat me and my friend down, and he's like, "You guys have to check this out." And we watched like the first episode, and I was like, "What is this? Why are we watching this?" And then 2 more episodes go by, and that, I think Zach, you know what scene I'm talking about happens.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, does
Yeah.
it?
and I finished the rest of that show the next day. It's
That
really
is, yeah, it goes places. It really goes places.
good.
So you know, maybe eventually we'll have to get to watching that because you know, once again I wouldn't mind going and seeing that stuff again. But that's kind of the stuff I wanted to kind of go over. You know, like the shows that we've always been wanting to check out, but never have the opportunity to. I'm trying to think about like another show that I have yet to see. I pulled up a list to help me out here. I like how every single I'm looking on Google right now. It's like, what's like the anime you've never seen before? Just like some of the oldest stuff,
I
like
just
heavy
how most
metal
popular.
and Desert Punk. I saw Desert Punk. That show was pretty good. Yeah. Well,
Oh,
since
Death
I can,
Parade, that
is
was
there
one.
anything else you guys can come up with as well?
Yeah, you guys were telling me to watch Death Parade. I remember that.
I have not seen Death
Oh,
Parade.
I was telling you to watch that.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
never
I
seen it.
remember.
So.
I think the studio is Bones, so animation quality is really good. Every episode is kind of like a different person, I guess, that they focus on. Because do you guys know what the synopsis of the anime is?
It's a guy that, like, he's just like a bartender, right? That he basically tries to solve the problems of the people that comes into his bar. Was that kind of like the gist of it?
those people are dead.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, that's
Yes.
also the big part I should point out. They're dead.
Yeah, so they basically play games to determine like who gets to go to heaven or who gets to be reincarnated and who goes to like oblivion, basically.
Ooh, that looks like that'll hit right at the core.
Yep.
That's
The feels.
Yeah. I hear it's supposed to be like a real tearjerker.
Yep, I cried.
I heard a lot of people did. So if you want an anime that's going to mess you up, I think that's going to be it. Oh, another one that I always wanted to see that I haven't gotten around to it because I've only seen a few. I have. That's
yeah, me too.
That's kind of the big. Oh, you haven't seen it either. What about you, Deanna?
I grew up watching some of the episodes.
This could be potential right there for something that like an old show that we've been wanting to show. There's a lot of episodes, of course, but you know that's kind of the fun. Like, what if it's like we did like 500 episode show and then talk 2 episodes at a time? It's like,
Yo, if you guys want to catch up on One Piece, like I
Oh my god.
no, no thanks.
put it on the list.
Put it on the list.
No, don't. I don't want to subject you guys.
Full Metal Panic is another show that I've been really wanting to watch that I haven't seen yet. So.
Same.
What about you, Nusha?
I haven't seen it, yeah.
Oh, that could also be really good. Actually, that might be really good because they put out a strategy RPG over in Japan that is in English as well. So that might encourage you to spend money, I guess.
Oh boy, I don't do that enough.
I think that's... Is there anything else you guys come up with? I think that might be a pretty good list right there.
I have a few others, but I could save it for like our next.
Well, give me one, like the one that you'd be most inclined.
Okay, it was a recent one, but it's one I forgot to keep up on. Was ReZero.
Oh my
gosh.
goodness.
That's one show that I actually also I don't think I've actually ever seen ReZero.
You didn't watch it either?
No, I did. I'm sorry. I didn't finish it is what I'm saying. I dropped off on it. I got like maybe most of the way through it and I never finished it and I feel kind of ashamed about that. See, there's so many, speaking of review, there's so many like that. I blended that together with ReLife, which is totally different than ReZero. So that makes some sense. Yeah, I've not seen that at all. So that might be pretty good as well. So that's actually a good list here. 10 shows. So why don't you guys tell me, what's the one show that you'd be most excited to see? Like, what do you want to start with?
I'd like to start one that we all haven't seen.
Yes.
I think that'd be interesting. I know Trigun was one of them.
Full Metal Panic was one of them, apparently.
And then Ranma, I believe. Ranma.
Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind starting with Trigun, to be honest.
Have you seen Trigun, Deanna?
Nope.
Okay, that's a good one then, because I've never seen it. I feel super ashamed that I've never seen it. So let's go ahead and start with Trigun. So yeah, like I said at the beginning, what we're going to do is that starting next week, we're going to catch a couple episodes of Trigun, come back together and talk about it. So people who are listening to this podcast who want to participate in that, do the same, and that way we can all have a conversation about it. It'd be kind of exciting. So hope you guys enjoy this feature. But we'll have this list, of course, that we can return to. I'm sure that there might be some shows that we aren't thinking about right now that we might come back to. But, you know, for now, we'll be talking about Trigun. So look out for that. We're moving to the last thing that we wanted to cover, and that's Anime Expo. And so let me just go ahead and set this up here. I'm actually going to save that. I'm going to pull up a browser that people can check out while we talk about it. Because I know we've already got our list of the shows that we wanted to see. So let's not capture the cursor. Okay, so just going to quickly crop this a little bit here. You guys don't need to see all the extensions that I've got installed because holy crap, I've got a lot of extensions installed, so I'm ashamed about that. Okay. I think I've got it right here. Okay. It's fresh. Alright. Still stupid. Okay, so we've got the schedule up right now. It'll take a second for, of course, the people on the stream. There we go. So yeah, now that we can go through this, obviously there's going to be a little bit of a delay for. So you got, I mean, obviously those Nusha and Deanna, you already got your shows that you want to pick out here. So I know Nusha, you're going to actually be showing up on Wednesday for Anime Expo, right?
Thursday.
Thursday. Okay. Was that a
Wednesday's
car?
like the pre-show, I think.
Yeah. I don't think you need to worry about that. So let's just get down to Thursday. Okay. Let me pull up your schedule here. Oops. Actually, can't pull that up. So you just tell me what you've got here. What's the first thing you're gonna be checking out? Actually, I can pull this up on my phone too. So yeah.
First thing I got is the premiere of the new My Hero Academia movie. Surprise, surprise! I still want to check out everything that has to do with My Hero. Like comedy anime, I'm usually not a fan of anime movies because I tend to stay away from things that aren't like, canon. I don't know why. Like I tend to not be interested. But with this property, it's different. I think I'll happily absorb everything that has to do with Deku and All Might. So I'm excited to check that out and then tell you guys what I think.
That's yeah. You're the only one who's going to be able to watch it, sadly, because we've got other obligations.
Yep.
I can't, unfortunately, because of E3. I took so many days off that I can't go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing you've got scheduled here is the Viz Media Industry Panel.
Yeah, I read a lot of manga, so it sounds like they're going to be talking about a few series. It sounds like they're going to be revealing some new series as well. So I've never actually been to a panel like that, and so I'd like to catch up, maybe pick up some new series that I'd like to read.
Yeah, industry panels tend to be like the most interesting in my opinion because you get a lot of reveals that they've been saving for that particular event. So it's always good to kind of have that around. And so I know what time is an evening with Lab Zero? That would likely be in the evening, wouldn't it? I should have asked you guys to put the times in, so now I'm just kind of staring at it. Here, easy way. An evening with Lab Zero. So of course Lab Zero, the people that made Skullgirls, and also the upcoming Valkyrie Profiles type RPG Indivisible. So they're going to be there, and if I'm not mistaken, don't they have the Hiroki Kikuta, who's the composer for Secret of Mana? He's going to be there as well. So you're in for a treat, man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge fan of Lab Zero. I follow like a lot of their artists, and I have a few art books from the artists that worked on games like Skullgirls and Indivisible and stuff like that. So I'm always interested to see, what they're up to, what their work's looking like, and Indivisible is looking to be a really good game with a very diverse and interesting cast of characters. So I'm excited to learn more about that.
Same. It's been great because I've met the guys. I met the people at Lab Zero a number of times, and so that should be interesting. And I hope to see some real more progress with that game because it was delayed, unfortunately, not that long ago. So it's going to be kind of helpful for that stuff. So you've also got Netflix Loves Anime, so they're probably going to show off. Oh, pretty much they've got the people working on Castlevania going to be working there as well.
Yeah, I watched the first season of Castlevania. I wasn't like huge on it, but I did enjoy it. Netflix, of course, has been releasing like a truckload of anime,
Sadly.
and I've been a huge fan of that.
Violet Evergarden.
I don't know. You didn't like Violet?
I did. It's just the fact that it's on Netflix. It's like I can't pay for it, so gotta find my own ways. But
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
No.
Yeah, there's a new series coming out in October, the Grappler Baki series, which I've always been a huge fan of. I love like martial arts anime, and so Grappler Baki is like the epitome of that. And although I'm not super stoked on what the recent trailers have made it look like, I'm still gonna check it out. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they talk about, what they announce, and get to meet some cool people.
Absolutely. That's going to be pretty interesting to hear. And obviously they already announced another season of Castlevania. Season 2 hasn't even premiered, so they're really going full speed ahead on that show. So, and lastly, for that day anyway, you're also going to check out that Kill la Kill video game. Unfortunately, it's going to be interesting. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm surprised it's Has there been a Kill la Kill game? There hasn't, right?
No, not at this point. Actually, I don't think
Yeah,
you can see
I'm
this on screen.
surprised I'm surprised it's taken so long, but it's always nice to see Arc System Works working on something, so I'm gonna check that out. I don't know how the game's gonna actually turn out, but if I have time, I'll go and check that panel out.
Yeah, I'm kind of iffy about it just because the people that are making that Kill la Kill video game also made the Little Witch Academia video game that wasn't good at all, A plus, and so I'm kind of hesitant about it. But this is like, I wish that Platinum Games had gotten it. That was kind of like the dream, you know, like they were the ones that were going to be working on it because they've been doing all these pretty cool license games, but unfortunately they went with a different studio. But maybe this is a way for them to kind of, you know, prove themselves and do something exciting with the property, but we'll have to wait and see. From the images that they've shown, there's been like 4 pictures shown. It looks really nice, but you know,
It does.
it's Bob, but the, you know, the content is more important than that. And then we move into Friday.
Woo!
And so you've got designing the heroines of SNK with artist Eisuke Ogura. So
Yeah.
big SNK heroines fan. Are you gonna pick that game up?
I'm not sure if I'm gonna pick it up. I'm a huge fan of, you know, SNK. Like, again, I talked about fighting games and stuff like that, and I also love, you know, drawing and illustrating. So getting a chance to see one of the artists, you know, actually work on the characters and develop designs and stuff like that always seems like a treat. So I'm gonna go check that out. It seems like it'll be a good time.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Hopefully, and I'm sure maybe some live drawings as well. That's always kind of the interesting thing for some of those events here. And then we get to the official JoJo's Bizarre, not the Bizarre Escape though. Unfortunately, you're going to the Bizarre Adventure panel. I didn't even know there was an escape room for Bizarre. What?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, I'm over the moon that Part 5 has been announced. So I think they're going to reveal the first, or they're going to premiere the first episode at the panel. Part 5 is actually like my favorite part of JoJo's, so I was really happy to see that announced, and I'm excited to go meet a couple of JoJo heads.
A couple of JoJo heads?
I believe that's what they call it.
Is that the calling audience? Is a bunch of JoJo heads?
I absolutely made that up, and I'm ashamed.
Oh god. Okay, that's all right. Well, now that that's pretty much all that you've got for that particular day. Actually, I let me see here. So yeah, you've got. I think Deanna. Actually, yeah, you won't be. Looks like you won't be showing up until Saturday. Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So let me just go through the few of the shows that I want to see. So Liz and the Bluebird. I can't talk. It's been a lot of talking here. So Liz and the Bluebird. That's the side story of Sound Euphonium from Kyoto Animation. It's a feature film that they're going to be premiering at Anime Expo, as you can see on Friday. I'm probably going to see if I can take some time off, because otherwise I can't get to it in time. But I've been really wanting to see that. It's got the same director of A Silent Voice, and she did a great job with that. And the whole focus is about 2 characters from Sound Euphonium who decide to play Liz and the Blue Bird. I can't say that easy. Liz and the Blue Bird. And they, you know, they have some conflicts between each other when they try to perform the freeform solo performances for that. And so that starts to put some strain on the relationship. And so I'm curious to see how that'll go. And it's Kyoto, so the animation's going to be killer, no doubt. Then, speaking of Kill la Kill, if I can find it. There you go. Wait, did they... Oh, I probably didn't scroll down far enough, that's why. Okay. This site is garbage. I just want to say that straight up. It uses like this weird like flash. That's kind of hard to find. Studio Trigger Industry Panel, which hopefully, you know, means that we'll check out not just SSSS Gridman, but also their next project that they teased last year that they didn't show much about. Maybe some details about whatever that upcoming Inferno Cop sequel that they teased before, what that could potentially be. I'm also excited for that. And maybe some... I'm kind of hoping for like a Space Patrol Luluco sequel, but I don't know if they'll...
Yes, please.
That'd be sweet, yeah.
That'd be pretty great. And then we've got Makia When the Promised Flower Blooms. That's actually happened at the same time, around the same time SSSS Gridman is premiering, but I figured, hey, that's going to be out in October anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and watch this movie. Kind of prefer to watch movies on these premieres anyway, rather than like a simple TV show. That's kind of how it is. And the whole story is about this girl who's from a clan where everyone stops aging in their mid-teens, and so she doesn't have any parents, and that way she kind of starts to feel a little bit lonely. And then suddenly this army invades that's trying to find out their secret to like this immortality, and so she manages to escape from all that, and meets this boy, this baby boy, and the story follows how he grows up, but she isn't able to, and so. It's kind of like Bicentennial Man. I don't know. It's just like it's going to be kind of interesting to see like what happens is that the fact that there's like this weird rift between them because of this. But even the key visual that they showed off shows him the boy as an adult, and so it's already kind of this odd situation that they're put into, and so I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. And then we've got the Xseed Games localization panel. So they already announced London Detective Mysteria, which is like this, Deanna might like this Otome game that's set in 19th century London. So they're localizing that. Apparently it was huge in Japan, so Otome fans might want to take note on that. It includes it's this like bunch of different figures from that era, like Sherlock Holmes, Watson, Lupin, Kogoro Akechi, so that could be interesting. But they've also got other games they're going to show off there, like Fate Extella Link, Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, Senran Kagura Burst Renewal, Gungrave VR, I guess. I don't know. It's like they got a bunch of different games that they're going to show there. Maybe some announcements. Some people hoping for Trails of Cold Steel 3, but we'll see. I don't know if that's going to be there or not, but we'll find out. And then we move back to New Shaw on Saturday. If I can pull up the schedule without it completely destroying me, that would be pretty cool. People who are listening to this, I'm showing this the schedule on stream so people can check that out here. Does this panel even exist that you put down here? Because I can't find it.
It does. I'm not surprised you can't.
It's like, is it buried? Oh, it's at 2:30. You're starting late here. Okay.
Yeah. Kengan Ashura is this. It's another martial arts series. Very much like a successor to Grappler Baki, just over the top action, characters, martial arts, all that kind of stuff. And I think it won a poll. They asked all the fans what series you would want to be adapted the most, and it got first, actually, which I was very surprised about because I thought it was a very niche like property. But yeah, it got an adaptation. I was excited until I watched the trailer, and then the CG struck again, and it was bad. It did not look good. And so I'm still going to go check it out, give it a shot, but my expectations are very, very low, which is kind of a shame, but yeah.
Yeah, whenever they blend 3D CG into these types of shows, it's like, oh great, they must not have much of a budget to work with. But
yeah,
hopefully, I mean, obviously 3D CG is also pretty challenging in many respects, but for anime, it's mostly miss rather than hit. Like Arpeggio Blue Steel, I think, is one of the shows that I really enjoyed, even if it was in 3D CG, but definitely prefer the 2D art style to anything.
I recently started Hoseki no Kuni, which is actually what I think is a really good CG anime. All the characters are like super expressive. It's not very jarring when you see CG in that series, except for like a few moments. I'm hoping we can see more series like that, but I haven't really seen any trend towards it.
No, that's also what I like about Arpeggio Blue Steel is that they're very expressive characters. Excuse me. So hopefully for something good. And then finally, you've got for that day Studio Trigger live drawing. So you're gonna watch some people draw some characters.
Yeah, same thing. I love seeing people draw. I love seeing the professionals do it. It kind of teaches me a thing or two of how it's done.
The FET will be in collaboration with Wacom. Okay, that's
yeah. Go figure.
Maybe a giveaway in your future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that'd be cool. It's always nice seeing professionals like just bust out the skills they've been spending years and years honing and seeing how they do it and teaching yourself a thing or two. Absolutely.
That's kind of hoping for that. I mean, that's obviously as an artist yourself, I'm sure like these types of events are perfect for trying to absorb as much as you can about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
Deanna, you've got
Yes.
Starting off, the very first thing you're going to do is check out that Sailor Moon panel. I know somebody who went to that panel last year and loved it. So
Yay. Okay. Yeah, hopefully we get some news on like a new Sailor Moon season.
Oh yeah, what happened to Sailor Moon Crystal?
I mean, From the ending of that last season, it seemed like they were teasing a new one, but yeah, and apparently we're gonna get some goodies, so free goodies.
That's honestly like most of the time I'll go to those panels expecting something fresh. And then we've also got LGBTQ plus anime presented by Crunchyroll, and so obviously analyzing that how they're treated in shows and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay. So that's another big part. They just show Yuri on Ice back to back. I don't know. I watched that show last. I actually really liked that show, by the way. I saw that recently. It was a really damn good show.
I gotta finish it.
Yeah. Then we've also. Oh, have you been keeping up on Voltron?
Yes, I have.
Oh, I know
And
somebody
I've
who's
been
obsessed
enjoying
with that
it.
show. Yes.
So it'll be cool to see what they have to say about the seasons they've worked on and obviously future ones.
Yeah. Also, another Wacom sponsored thing. Wacom is just out in full force this time.
And I'm going to all of them.
Oh, hey. Yeah. Are you going to go to the Voltron panel?
Probably, yeah.
It's just any opportunity at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last thing, it looks like you've got in your schedule for that day, International Women of Manga. So celebrate diversity in manga and join us to learn about 5 exciting original titles by diverse female manga authors from around the world. That's pretty awesome. I like that idea.
Yeah.
So that's kind of looks like that's for me. Not gonna spend too much time on my stuff either. Zanki Zero, Danganronpa's Terasawa, and Sugawara. I can't pronounce anything. Basically, they're like the people that made. It's the producer and director of Danganronpa. And so Zanki Zero itself, it's like about this group of kids who are like the last surviving people on Earth after one day a disaster wipes off most of the humans on Earth. And so it's kind of interesting because this panel is being held 2 days after that game comes out in Japan. So it'll be interesting to hear what the reception's going to be. It's already announced for localization, obviously, because it's being shown here. So I'm curious to see what they're going to talk about. Then we got the new era of visual novel, dive into the screen with VR technology. That's also pretty interesting because it's got the motion director for Expelled from Paradise. I don't know if you guys saw that movie, but it was pretty good. CG. Speaking of 3D CG, it had great 3D CG in it. So that's going to be interesting. It also has like Sakai Project talking about the games that they, some of the stuff that they're working on and what the future of that format is going to be like. So that should be kind of cool. Then I've also got IFI localizing a brand new IP that's Idea Factory. I already know what the game is. But it'll be interesting to hear them talk about it. But they're also going to discuss the localization process, and that's always kind of fascinating to hear their perspective about that. Editors, what they have to go through to localize a project. I went to Nice America's panel last year that was very similar to that, talking about Danganronpa V3, and that was kind of cool. Then you've got visual novels with Sakai Project, just talking about what stuff they've got coming out. So I'm doing my due diligence. Then I might experience some torture by going to the A1 Pictures panel. People who don't know, they're the ones that worked on like Sword Art Online, Persona 5, Ace Attorney, all those anime adaptations. That's them. So I'm expecting they're going to announce like maybe some new projects they're working on. I don't think I saw an Aniplex panel. Nope, there it is. Okay, that's happening. So I don't know. I think that actually is a schedule conflict, so I don't think I'm going to go to that one. Instead, I'm going to go to the Pony Canyon industry panel. Pony Canyon, people don't know, they've been around forever. They've got their hands in a ton of licenses, including K-On! And so I wanted to check that out. Maybe they'll chat some more about Soundophonium, like what else they've got coming out here. So that should be pretty good. And finally, the Cowboy Bebop 20th anniversary panel. It's at 8 o'clock. I don't know if I'll go to it, but I thought that sounded interesting that they're going to hold that panel. Cowboy Bebop, top 3 favorite anime of all time. So I was kind of excited about that.
It's another one I need to see.
Yes. The stuff that you saw. And then we go back. If I can find this panel, Jesus. I'm telling you. The site.
You got the obscure ones.
Yes. The ones that are like buried at the bottom. The Udon artist draw-off. Once again, a live drawing. But the Udon people that are some of the best artists around. They do all those Street Fighter comic books.
Yeah, exactly. I've actually read a couple of them, and I've been a huge fan. So getting to see them actually do that live will be really, really cool. It sounds like they're also going to be announcing some new projects and news. So kind of the same reason why I'm checking out that Viz Media one, and maybe I'll be lucky and actually get that giveaway for the live or the live piece of drawing that they're making.
Yes, I love the art. Like I've been buying their books since I was like in middle school, so it'd be really cool to see what they could come up with. Actually, probably was high school, honestly. I don't know. I'm old.
You're really not.
Like I said, I'm like the old man in the woods. Leave me alone. So going to Deanna on that day, you're going to be checking out Kasi-san and Morning Glories. I've actually never heard of this.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's about two high school girls having like this wholesome relationship and just going through life. And it's directed by the director of Steins Gate, so that'll be interesting.
Okay, that sounds awesome. All right, I'm already interested in what that has to be. So that'll be happening as well. And then you've got another panel about representation in anime, in canon and fanon. So obviously it sounds like you're absorbing a lot of the information from there, which is great. I mean, obviously representation, very key. I really sold that, didn't I? That's really good. And then Exogenesis, the anime. I know we talked about this yesterday, actually. This looks pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because Johnny O'Brien, the NBA player, he's like the creator of Exogenesis.
That's right. I forgot he had his hands in it.
So yeah, they're gonna premiere the pilot episode and kind of talk about what the process has been like from the manga to anime.
That was a Kickstarter, wasn't it?
Is it?
I think it was. I think the manga was a Kickstarter project, and then they got the funding to make a pilot like that. Because I think it started off as a book, if I'm not terribly mistaken. But that sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, for me, let's see here. Actually, I think that I'm probably gonna be like the last one here, and is Udon, yes. So the last thing, I don't even know if I'm gonna show up on Sunday because this is it. Play Anime hosted by Bandai Namco Entertainment America. It's at 3:30. It's an hour before the closing ceremonies. I hate the fact that this is so late because last year it was like maybe a day or two into the convention. But Bandai Namco always bring a bunch of stuff. They have a lot to reveal. A lot of like usually it's the times when they announce like some big like special editions and things like that. Clearly they're gonna show off like Soul Calibur 6, My Hero One's Justice, Code Vein. By the way, My Hero One's Justice is still a dumb fucking name. Cute. But that's they got like that, and they also got amazing new announcements. So I'm very curious to hear what they got to say. I'll probably be thinking it over in my head whether to show up on Sunday, but you know it'd be kind of a shame if I want to show up for a couple of days. So I might do that just to maybe I'll try to avoid like the exhibitor floor while I try to do that. That's going to be kind of challenging, but I'm curious to see what they have in store for us. So that's it for our podcast, guys. It was a long one.
Oh, we did it. It was a long one, yeah.
Yeah, it went over just a little over 2 hours here. But yeah, this is something that, once again, we wanted to do for quite some time. Obviously, we got pretty granular with working on this, but this was like a big recap episode. So going forward, it'll just be almost all solely focused on the stuff we watched this past week. Just a bit of a recap. Talking about the shows that we're watching and our thoughts about it. So this should be a lot shorter moving forward. No promises, because I say the same thing about the other podcasts we do, and that tends to be way longer every single time. But yeah, I wanted to thank once again Nusha and Deanna for being a part of this.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and so we hope to do this every week. Next week we'll be back, I'm assuming. Following Sunday, though, that's Anime Expo. We might not be doing one, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But thank you everyone for listening, and everyone on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/RPG site, for watching the live stream of this. We are seeing your posts in the chat there. Just that we wanted to kind of get through this, but appreciate anyone who hung out with us and got to check this out. Going forward, we'll be interacting with you more, just so that we can get a better rapport with you all. But appreciate you all showing up anyway. And so for now, thank you all for watching Anime Review, and catch us next week for yet another episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.